Thank you so much for being here this morning. Is there a reason why the Supreme Court's judgment that ordered the fresh delineation of the electoral boundaries in Warri Federal Constituency is difficult to implement? Is there any reason?
Well, thank you for having me. It is my pleasure to be on your platform. When the judgment was delivered on the 2nd day of December 2022, I handled the case for the appellant, the young people of Warri. I was instructed and I wrote a letter to InEC immediately, attaching the judgment and also asking them to implement the judgment before the conduct of the 2023 general elections. InEC subsequently called for a stakeholders meeting. At that meeting, the explanation InEC gave was that election is a process. They had about 9 items on the timetable. They had done about 8 at that time. It was only voting that was remaining. Therefore, it was practically impossible for them to implement the judgment before the conduct of the 2023 elections. And with the understanding of stakeholders at that meeting, it was agreed that the implementation should be done immediately after the 2023 elections. Now, after the elections, it took InEC months to take any steps there in respect of the implementation. So the Ijaw and Urhobos went to Abuja to protest, which led to a meeting between the leadership of InEC and the stakeholders, and it was agreed that the process of implementation should start. Subsequently, meetings took place. There was a field work. Now, after the field work, the secretaries went to court, obtained an interim order to stop the process without telling the court that the process was the Supreme Court ordered process. And that delayed for several months before that order was set aside and a field report was submitted. Now, some of us thought that haven't presented the interim field report and observations haven't been done as requested by InEC. InEC would take the next step, which is to engage with the stakeholders and address genuine issues that may have been raised and conclude the process. Because as noted by one of you, without the in compliance with the judgment of the Supreme Court of Nigeria, at this moment, there are no electoral wards and polling units. And these are the foundations of any electoral process. So what it simply means is that there is a risk that there will be no election in the Warri Federal Constituency, that is the State House of Assembly, the Federal Constituency, and of course, maybe the Delta South Central District may be affected in the 2027 election. So my appeal on this platform is for InEC to immediately take necessary steps to engage stakeholders. Some groups have made observations. Those observations need to be attended to, then release the final report of the delineation so that the Warri Federal Constituency can be part and parcel of the electoral process in the 2027 elections.
I know you've mentioned that, the implication of this not happening so far, the delineation not happening, would mean that they do not have, there might not be elections. But what are the other implications of, how this might stifle the political voice, their political voices, and cause them to be further underrepresented? What are the implications of this not happening if InEC doesn't heed this call?
No, there will be a lot of implications. Part of it is that there will be unrest, and that unrest may come from different angles. For example, the Ijaw and Urhobos have insisted that there should be compliance with the judgment of the Supreme Court, which is the proper thing to do. And if you don't comply with a judgment of court, what you are simply doing is to invite anarchy. People will now take laws into their hands. And in any case, InEC do not have the right to deny the people of the Warri Federal Constituency from participating in the electoral process because of their inability to comply with a judgment of the Supreme Court by performing that statutory responsibility. So I do hope that they will do what is proper before the conduct of the 2027 election. And that is by the doorstep, because electoral process normally starts with delineation. After delineation, you go to registration of voters. After that, there will be party congresses to elect candidates and some other activities. And those activities are about to commence with respect to the 2027 election. So I hope that InEC would do what is proper within the ambit of the law without further delay. Because if not, I cannot really predict the dimensions that it will take, but I know that there will be a lot of reactions from different stakeholders. Already, people are agitated as to reason for the delay, and there's no reason why InEC should put people in suspense. I expect InEC to engage stakeholders, address issues that have been raised, and release the final reports.
I mean, you've talked about InEC addressing stakeholders, but the level of tensions we've seen between the Ijaw and Urhobo and Ishekiri communities with regards to this ward delineation has reached such a level that many believe that InEC alone might not be able to assuage fears or reduce the tension. When the stakeholder meetings, as you've suggested, eventually happens, do you think InEC alone would be able to calm frayed nerves and move this process ahead? Because some are already accusing InEC of bias. So
the tensions that you refer to are not unprecedented in our electoral process. In every electoral process, especially in the context of Nigeria, where there is a do or die affair, or there is intention to want to have their ways all the times, the tensions are part and parcel of the process. But beauty of it is that there are institutions that handle different aspects of it. If there are security issues arising in the process of this delineation, just as they do in the elections, the security agencies are expected to handle it. If there are legal issues, it is expected that people will present their legal issues to the court, and the court will attend to them. Most of the issues that have been raised are already subject of litigation. So I do not think that the supposed tension, for those of us in Warri, I speak from Warri now, there's no tension in Warri. Warri is calm. Some of the things that you read on the newspapers and you see in the television may not necessarily mean that there's so much tension that people cannot have a conversation. So whatever issues that people may have raised, the best way to go about it is to call stakeholders and attend to those issues. It is not to keep people in suspense. It is not to stay away from the people. The solution is call stakeholders, address genuine issues that have been raised, and conclude the process. If there are security issues, the security agencies to handle it. If there are legal issues, the courts are there to handle it.
All right. I mean, just last week or so, we did have a guest who came and talked about how this is affecting the community, the perspective, the mindset of the people, especially the Ishekiri people, how it seems like there seems to be a power tussle from one tribe to the other. Would you rightly say that it's time that everyone sits together and do that as soon as possible? Because you've said that you're waiting on the Supreme Court's judgment, and then, of course, it's not been implemented yet. What actions, bottom line, what actions can be taken now so that this doesn't linger any further?
And just to add to what my colleague has said, our guest that came in last week also mentioned that there's an interested party in InEC which might manipulate decisions to favor one party over the other.
Well, these allegations in most cases are unfounded. And from this terrain, I understand what happens here, and I also had the privilege of being part of this case, the case that led to the judgment at the Supreme Court, and of course led the legal team at the Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court. So I know what is obtainable here. In actual fact, the Shekiris, with respect to them, have no reason to complain. They got more than what they deserve. The people that, in my view, genuinely as a case are, for example, the Ijaw people in Warri Southwest, whose feed report was not considered. 130 communities, 251 points were identified for the creation of polling units in Ijaw in Warri Southwest, but none was considered in the report. In Warri North, the people of Opuama, who are Ijaw people as well, Opuama and Sekelewu, their feed report was not considered. They have not gone to flow stations to block them. They have submitted their cases to InEC. So if anybody is aggrieved, that is what I expect them. And in my view, it is the Ijaw people in Warri Southwest, the Opuama people in Opuama and Sekelewu in Warri North that has a right to complain. And they have gone about it the way it ought to be done. With respect to the Ishekiri claim, I do not think, with respect, that in Warri Southwest they deserve more than 5 words. Even the 5 words given to them, it's unfair. Because, for example, like I said, Ijaw is 3 times bigger than the Ishekiri population in Warri Southwest. Ijaw was given only 2 words. They have not said heaven which will fall. They have made a case to InEC to address it. The same thing with the Sekelewu Opuama case in Warri North. So the complaints that what needs to be done, is that needs to be conversation? Yes, there needs to be conversation. But what I am not comfortable with is the approach of wanting to bring the roof down because you think that things didn't go down your way. I think that what needs to be done, from my experience of the issue in Warri, the problem is lack of political space. Over time, there ought to be more local government areas in the Warri Federal Constituency, preferably homogeneous local government areas for the different ethnic groups. But that has not been done. In the interim, we have to work with what we have. I think that what we need to do, the way forward, is first to complete this delineation process fairly. Give everybody what is due to them, not just between Ijaw and Ichekiri, but even within Ijaw and within Ichekiri. Give everybody what is due to them based on the realities on ground. Now, once that is done, we need to move to the next stage. And I have advocated, my view is that there is need for creation of additional state constituencies in the Warri Federal Constituency. Now, the implication of the delineation is that in every local government areas, in 3 Warri local government areas, you now have more than 10 electoral wards. In some places, 20 has been proposed, some other places, 19 and 18. That necessitates the creation of additional state constituency. For example, in Warri Southwest, I feel that there should be additional 2 constituencies where the Ichekiris will have their own. The Baramatu, as part of Warri Southwest, will have their own. Then Ogbejo part will also have their own. In Warri South, the Urhobos need to have their own. The Ichekiris need to have their own. And then somehow they also need to be platform where the Jones will also have the opportunity to express themselves in the state House of Assembly. In Warri North too, there need to be 2 state constituencies so that the Ichekiris will have their own, the Jones will have their own. Now, how does this address the problem? The reason is that all the reason for the agitation by the Ichekiri people is because they feel that they will be excluded. With them not having the majority in those local government areas, they will not have the opportunity of producing the council chairman, they will not be in the state House of Assembly or in the federal constituency. So if you have these additional constituencies created at every point in time, all the ethnic nationality will have the opportunity of being represented in the state House of Assembly. Then with respect to the chairmanship, in Warri Southwest, for example, there is already a sharing arrangement between the Jones and the Ichekiris, a 2-term arrangement. That should be consolidated upon and extended to local government areas like Warri Southwest, Warri South, and Warri North. With that kind of arrangement, and even the federal constituency, there need to be a power sharing arrangement. Some people may want to deny it, but that is a reality that we must face. In any society where you have multiple ethnic groups, in any multi-ethnic society, there must be power sharing. Yeah, that's why in Nigeria, you talk of North-South in the presidency of this country. The same thing with other positions. So the reality stakeholders in Warri must face is that they must sit down after this delineation and agree on a power sharing arrangement. That is my view, is the solution to all the agitations that you are hearing.
And do you think that the Ichekiri people will be very receptive to these suggestions that you've made? Because they've argued about the fact that their concerns are about political being, swallowed up politically by other the Ijaws and the Urhobos. They've argued that they have as much rights, and their concerns are about how this delineation exercise will not marginalize them in a sense. They argue that they have as much rights to some of the opportunities that you've mentioned. So, do you think that maybe these suggestions that you've made about power sharing will be enough to pacify the Ichekiri people?
Well, there are some situations that you find yourself, you have to face the reality. The reality is that, number one, there's nothing like one person or group having more political rights than the other. Under our laws, both international and local, everybody has equal right to representation in political activities. There's no ethnic group that in any way has right more than others. That's number one. Then 2, the reality in the Warri Federal Constituency is that these 3 different ethnic groups are all indigenous to their communities, and they have all, in actual fact, been participating. And so to say that, they will be swallowed up, like I said earlier, their fear is that the present delineation has brought out a reality, which is that there are minority in all the 3 local government areas. And minority over the years, from the colonial era where the Area Willis Commission was set up, there have always been special arrangements to take care of minority interests. And that is why I propose the power sharing arrangement. That's the only way to address their concern. Beyond that, it will be majority take all. And I don't support that sort of arrangement where, because one group is majority, they will take all. When the Ichekiris are the majority in the Warri Federal Constituency, based on what we know, that was not the true reflection of the reality. Some of us advocated against it. That is not fair in this environment where you have multiple ethnic groups, from one ethnic group to to be leading. Their fear in actual fact is that, like I said in another platform, they have not been fair to their neighbors. So it is that fear that they have, that because they were treating their neighbors unfairly, their neighbors will also treat them unfairly. That's the fear they have. But I still don't think that the Urhobos and the Ijaws will be that unfair to them. I am an Ijaw man before I propose this power sharing arrangement. So I'm very sure that even the Urhobos will be disposed to a power sharing arrangement where everybody can live and let's live.
Well, anyway, are you in any way worried about any political interference in all of this, be it from the political party, be it from the political personalities? Any worries on that?
Well, there have been some platforms that people have protested to that ordinarily has nothing to do with delineation. For example, some persons have gone to the Office of National Security Advisor, some persons have protested to the presidency. My advice to them is that we operate a constitutional democracy. The essence of a constitutional democracy is that things are done according to the provisions of the Constitution. InEC is independent in the performance of its functions. If you are not satisfied with what InEC has done, you go to court. Under no circumstance should the Office of the National Security Advisor or the presidency should interfere in this process, because it is a constitutional function of InEC. And I hope that InEC knows their boundaries and will insist on protecting their independence and also do the job according to the law. Issues have been raised. Those issues should be genuinely attended to, especially the issues of Ijaw, Opuama, and Sekelewu that I've mentioned in Warri South and Warri North. Then, if there are genuine issues that the Shekiris have raised, they can look at them. And but most importantly, this process has to be completed. It cannot continue forever.
All right. Thank you so much.
Just before we wrap up, I hear that, as in from our last conversation, that there was a ceasefire in Warri. Is that currently the position, and how long are we expecting that to last?
Ceasefire? Come again,
on protests?
Yes, ceasefire on the protests.
Well, those protests, it wasn't as if there was a continuing protest. They were isolated cases of people reacting to some situations, and that is expected in a democratic environment. What is important is that whoever wants to go and protest must do it within the boundaries of the law. Nobody should take laws into their hands. You recall that there is a case of a group of people who are trying to bring arms into the Warri Federal Constituency to foment trouble, and we have made a strong case to the Office of the National Security Advisor and to the presidency for those people to be brought to justice. We are not in a lawless society where when you are angry, you take laws into their hands. The issue of there's really no ceasefire. There have been isolated cases of protests. Those protests don't last more than 1 or 2 hours. That is normal in a democratic society. And that does not in any way pose security threats to Warri. Warri is calm. Everybody is going about their normal businesses. InEC should complete their job so that the people can leave behind and move on with their lives.
Thank you so much for speaking with us, legal practitioner Mr. Eric Omale, and shedding more light on this current situation. Thanks for your time.